The nostalgia and excitement that football offers transcends age and time. Of course, that's down to the main antagonists themselves, the players who give everything on the pitch. However, we can all agree that the footballing ecosystem would never be complete without a stadium to bring both the fans and the players together in one arena. In today's game, there are quite a lot of high-standard football stadiums with great aura and new age amenities. But when we rank them, only a few have witnessed as much magic as Old Trafford, which is fondly called the Theatre of Dreams. Today, we begin our Stadium Tour series with an interesting journey around Old Trafford and reveal why it is one of the most iconic grounds in football history. As we move on with the video, recall the memorable matches played at this very stadium and rate them in the comment section below. Background: flanked by the Bridgewater Canal in the north and a railway line in the south, the Old Trafford Stadium is a dominant structure in the heart of Manchester. Its nickname, the Theatre of Dreams, was coined by club legend Sir Bobby Charlton in a book titled Soccer, written by John Riley. This is Manchester United Football Club. This is the Theatre of Dreams, the phrase read. And if we recount the ordeals that have played out on the pitch since it was built, Old Trafford has indeed been a theatre of dreams. The ground has become a host to some of the most spectacular scenes in modern football history. But the beginning of the project was less fascinating and far from magical. Although their names are seldom mentioned, what we've come to know today as Old Trafford would never have been possible without two men, Davies and Leach. It all started in 1902 when John Henry Davies became a part of the club. Back then, United, under the name Newton Heath, were bottom of the second division. The club was on the verge of bankruptcy, and its home ground, named Bank Street, was more of a village square than the Theatre of Dreams. But on many accounts, that was an improvement on the previous stadium named North Road. Consequently, Davies, who was one of the biggest investors in the club at the time, initiated a rebranding process that saw the colour of the club kit change to red and white and its name to Manchester United. Next, he set his sights on upgrading the home ground. By 1906, the stadium had a covered stand and a maximum capacity of 50,000. With more investments coming into the club, United gained promotion to the Football League, and in 1908 went on to win its first of 20 domestic league titles. By then, the city's population had grown exponentially, and Davies began to deliberate on how to build a new stadium that would house 100,000 spectators. 5 miles away from Bank Street, around the Manchester Ship Canal and the Trafford Park Industrial Estate, the club found a new home. And for a total cost of £60,000, Scottish architect Archibald Leach was assigned the task of creating the finest stadium in the north. Having built other iconic football grounds like the Craven Cottage, White Hart Lane, Goodison Park and Ibrox Stadium, Archibald came highly recommended. Although he had to settle for an 80,000 capacity stadium to save money, the project was a huge success. Afterward, United went almost a year without losing a home game, and that impressive form translated into another league title in 1911. Some weeks later, Old Trafford hosted an FA Cup semi-final game. Fast forward to 1915, the final between Chelsea and Sheffield United was played at Old Trafford in front of almost 50,000 spectators dressed in uniform. A similar crowd gathered at Old Trafford in 1926 to witness the first international game at the ground, which was held between England and Scotland. The Three Lions claimed a 1-0 victory on the day. Within the next year, the stadium broke its attendance records twice, with the highest being 70,504 spectators for a game between United and Aston Villa on the 27th of December 1920. From then on, the ground has continued to expand, and today it is regarded as the second largest football stadium in the United Kingdom. At the request of the army, Old Trafford was used as a weapons depot, but the club continued to hold football matches on the pitch. However, 2 bomb raids between 1940 and 1941, destroying most of the club's valuable assets, including the South Stand. This damage forced United to move to Main Road, home to fierce rivals Manchester City. However, the rental costs were deemed too expensive. United relocated back to Old Trafford in 1949, following the restart of the Football League after World War II, and then the rebuild started. Stadium lights were installed in 1959, and in 1965 the North Stand, featuring the first executive box in British football, was constructed. In another first-of-its-kind move, the club became the first club in the world to install perimeter fencing to curb hooliganism. Following the report and recommendations from the Hillsborough disaster, safe standing was banned. However, serious repairs needed to be carried out, especially because the stadium's capacity had dropped from 80,000 to 44,000. Soon, the renovations got into top gear, coinciding with some strong dominance by the team on the pitch. Upgrades to the north and south stands have seen the stadium's capacity exceed 70,000 seats. The 4 stands at Old Trafford. The Old Trafford pitch is flanked by 4 stands: the North Stand, Sir Bobby Charlton stand in the south, as well as the East and West stand. On the 19th of February 2010, the North Stand, which accommodates 26,000 fans, was renamed the Sir Alex Ferguson stand in recognition of his excellent service to the club. Aside from housing the biggest number of supporters, this stand is also home to a few executive boxes and hospitality suites. Sir Bobby Charlton's stand at the south end is specially reserved for executives, VIPs, and journalists. The best views of the pitch can be had from this stand. But in terms of atmosphere, the 14,000 capacity West Stand, which has since been nicknamed the Stretford End, is regarded as the best. Meanwhile, the East Stand accommodates 13,300 supporters, including disabled fans. Hospitality. All in all, there are 21 suites and well over 140 executive boxes within Old Trafford. But outside the stadium, you can find good luxury and hospitality spots like the Lowry Hotel, Chester's Hotel, Victoria Warehouse Hotel, Premier Inn, and the Football Manchester Hotel, owned by Gary Neville and Ryan Giggs. Iconic monuments at Old Trafford. As one of the most iconic arenas in football, Old Trafford is home to a number of iconic monuments, sculptures, and structures. The museum and Red Cafe restaurant are 2 of the popular spots within the stadium, but perhaps the most noticeable special elements are the statues of different club legends located just outside the stadium. They include sculptures of Sir Matt Busby, as well as the United Trinity statue, which shows George Best, Denis Law, and Sir Bobby Charlton, 3 important players who helped Manchester United become the English club to win a European trophy. However, a 9-foot statue of legendary manager Sir Alex Ferguson attracts the most attention outside Old Trafford. The old entry tunnel was also renamed the Munich Tunnel in memory of the Munich air disaster and its victims. Despite all the renovations that have been carried out over the years, the tunnel remains unchanged. In addition, there is a special clock and a plaque that's dedicated to the memory of the victims of the Munich air disaster. Which other teams play at Old Trafford? While Manchester United are the primary occupants of Old Trafford, the ground has hosted the English men's national team a couple of times, including the dramatic 2-2 draw against Greece that sent England to the 2002 World Cup. Earlier this month, the England women's national team played their opening Euro 2022 match at Old Trafford in front of a record-breaking crowd of 70,000 supporters. And since 1987, every Rugby League Premiership final and Super League Grand Final has been held at Old Trafford. In October 1993, the stadium hosted a unification bout between WBO champion Chris Eubank and WBC champion Nigel Benn, and the stadium is also being touted as a possible venue for Tyson Fury's next fight. Most memorable games at Old Trafford. Old Trafford isn't called the Theatre of Dreams for nothing. The ground has witnessed some blockbuster matches over the years, and it's almost impossible to streamline it. But there are a few games that stand out. In 1957, when a young United team drew against a star-studded Real Madrid team featuring Raymond Kopa, Joseto, Paco Gento, and the great Alfredo Di Stefano. It was the first game at Old Trafford in which the stadium managers deployed the floodlights, but due to the stature of the opposition, not too many people expected United to come out with anything in the game. Unsurprisingly, the Red Devils were down 2-0 at half-time. However, they rallied round with second-half goals from Tommy Taylor and Sir Bobby Charlton to force a draw. In the end, it wasn't enough to secure their qualification into the next round, but the performance was commendable. Following the Munich air disaster, many wrote off United's chances of getting top results, but a depleted team made up of players on loan and youth players from the reserves led the Red Devils to one of the most famous victories in the club's history, as they dispatched then Italian champions AC Milan 2-1. And just like the fixture against Real Madrid the previous year, it was a comeback against a stronger opponent. Fast forward to 1966, Benfica were the team to reckon with, having won 4 consecutive European titles between 1961 and 1965. However, United exceeded all expectations to defeat the Portuguese giant 3-2 despite conceding first, and this time the team completed the task with a 5-1 victory away in Portugal. Having conjured one of the greatest European comebacks in 1999, Man United had earned themselves a reputation of being the comeback kings. But the club outdid itself yet again. Having lost 3-1 in the first leg to a fully stacked Real Madrid team at the Santiago Bernabeu, United turned up in style to secure a 4-3 win at Old Trafford. But unfortunately, the Spanish giants still managed to qualify ahead of United. In the quarter-final of the 2007 UEFA Champions League, Manchester United produced one of the most shocking results in the competition's history, beating Roma 7-1 to overturn a 2-1 first leg. It was a complete demolition of one of the most credible Italian teams on the continent at the time. And deservedly, Sir Alex Ferguson received a congratulatory letter accompanied by 7 cases of Chianti wine from Lazio supporters for embarrassing their rival on the biggest stage. Other notable games that have been held at Old Trafford include the 1-0 victory United secured against Barcelona in the return leg of the 2008-2009 Champions League season. The 8-2 demolition of Arsenal in the 2011-2012 season also deserves a mention, as much as the ridiculous 5-5 draw against West Bromwich Albion in Sir Alex Ferguson's last game in charge. More recently, the 4-0 victory at Old Trafford against Chelsea in 2019 was an enjoyable watch for United fans. The 3-2 comeback win in the group stage of last season's Champions League against Atalanta is also worth mentioning. Old Trafford declining state. In recent years, Old Trafford seems to have lost some of its glamour on and off the pitch. United fans have been angered by the leaky roof around the South Stand, and there have been reports of mice and rodents encroaching the pitch. Old Trafford has lost its place as the pearl of English football to stadiums like Wembley, Etihad, and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. However, after years of turning a blind eye to the poor condition of the arena, United's owners, the Glazers family, look like they're willing to improve the condition of the stadium. Some sources have suggested that the club could build an entirely new stadium. However, the hierarchy of the club are concerned about the potential cost of such a project, so they're instead leaning towards the redevelopment and expansion of the ground. Sources around the club have confirmed that Old Trafford is set to undergo yet another redevelopment phase that will add 15,000 seats to increase the stadium's capacity to 88,000. Fans have been asked to submit their opinion on plans to facelift Old Trafford. The renovation project, which will reportedly cost £200 million, is expected to transform the stadium into a 21st century state-of-the-art arena and also improve fans' experience. And as the club prepares for a new season under new manager Erik ten Hag, fans will be hoping that Old Trafford will witness even more exciting memories. Thanks a lot for watching the video to the end. Be sure to check out our next highlighted video here for you, and we will see you there.